figures of 70 million getting bandied about, and you're thinking, I don't think this is the player wanting to go. This is kind of Man United trying to get money for somebody.
With hours counting down in the January transfer window, we're looking at the future of Alejandro Garnacho following a standout performance in Bucharest. We're also digesting our European journey, Kobbie Mainoo in a 10, the continued struggles of Rasmus Hojlund ahead of Crystal Palace, and the story behind Fergie's first fledgling. That and more on your Theatre of Red. It is not every day you get to speak with a man who holds the distinction of being Sir Alex Ferguson's first signing as Manchester United manager. This man would later go on to play under Alan Ball before his promising career was cut short on medical grounds over a potentially significant back issue. But he is here today, chatting with us, and I'm of course speaking about the one and only Dr Alan Tonge. A pleasure to chat today, sir. How's everything with you?
I'm good, Shaun, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me on. Looking forward to having some United chat over this next sort of half an hour, 45 minutes or so.
Absolutely. It's always nice off the back of a win as well, Alan, you know. Before we dive in, the unique chapter that you have in this club, let's begin with a third successive win for Ruben Amorim's men, following Thursday evening's 2-0 victory against FCSB in Bucharest. It was an assured display, particularly in the second half, with further signs of this group developing continuity and consistency within this new-look Portuguese structure. Goals from Diogo Dalot and the very impressive Kobbie Mainoo got the job done in what was really a game where United were worth twice that scoreline without actually tearing the ground up in any sort of extravagant fashion. Having mowed through this new-look format without a defeat in 8, Amorim can now look ahead to a meeting against one of Real Sociedad, Midtjylland, Galatasaray or AZ Alkmaar. Just from your view, Alan, how did you rate the performance in Romania yesterday evening?
Yeah, I thought it was decent. I thought there was some decent football. Sure, I was quite impressed with United's performance. I thought it was a tough place to go. Like a lot of Eastern Bloc countries, I think Romanian sides usually are very technical, quite a hostile atmosphere, big crowding. And I thought Man United dealt with that particularly well last night. I thought some of the performances from players such as Mainoo, Garnacho were excellent. A couple of really good goals. First one, good cross from Kobbie to the back stick, and Dalot, of all people, appearing there just to slot home. And and then the kind of the second goal to shore it up was a lovely bit of play from Garnacho, cracking ball across the box, and a really good finish from Mainoo to stroke that home. I think he'd learned from the first half. Shaun, he had a similar chance, didn't he, where the ball kind of got played across to him and he didn't get his technique right and blazed it over the bar. So I think he learned from that experience and managed to guide it under the keeper for a really good 2-0 win. I mean, I think they had their opportunities, but, in bit part, I thought we controlled that particular game really, really well. And as you say, I think they're just signs at the moment that I think players are starting to get a little bit more confidence under Amorim's system. They're starting to show a little bit more something. I mean, it does take time. He had a tough job when he arrived. And I'm not saying that United are the finished product by any stretch of the imagination. There is going to be lots of changes, I think, over this next period. But yeah, that was a much better performance. And like you say, that's 3 wins on the bounce now.
The thing that really stands out for me, we can speak about the performances and results against Manchester City, Liverpool and Arsenal, and you can really stand chest cocked out that they were good performances, good results, and we showed that we can put it up against those big sides. But then we saw the Jekyll and Hyde manner of what's within this squad when they came up against Southampton and really, really struggled to get that over the line, and obviously needed an Ahmad masterclass in the last 10 minutes to get us over there. And then you see the 3-1 defeat against Brighton. In what you saw against Rangers and then last night, a similar type of opponents that Manchester United should be dominating the ball against. They should look strong in possession. They should create multiple opportunities. And even last night, that was a starting 11 that boasted 5 changes from the weekend win against Fulham. You saw Altay Bayındır coming back in between the sticks. Toby Collier continuing to impress with a good display in the midfield from the start. And you've obviously spoken a little bit about Kobbie Mainoo there. That was a notable tactical tweak that was installed with him being higher up the field in that number 10 position. And it truly emphasised the level of technical ability that he possesses alongside his goal and his assist in that standout performance. Amorim spoke about his value in the role after the game, and he's openly said that he's been given some fresh insight into the capabilities of his players, but particularly that with Mainoo, because he had made emphasis previously about he was maybe slightly struggling with the defensive side of his game and been able to keep that stamina and the level of engine that is required in a defensive block in that midfield. Ahead of the visit of Crystal Palace at the weekend that we'll get into later on, is that where you want to see Mainoo featuring more for the Reds and moving forward?
Well, if he turns in performances like he did last night, I think, hopefully he can sort of, get used to that position and start to dominate in there. He's only a young lad. He's still learning his craft, as it were. He had a sort of an outstanding kind of breakthrough time, didn't he, when he appeared on the scene and, the sort of the latest of the line of the United Academy lads. And he's been a bit quiet recently, but, last night he really stepped up again and produced what we kind of know he can do, and in turn turned in a really, really good performance. But as you alluded to there, Shaun, I think really for me football is all about consistency. Now, some of the performances that we've seen over the last few wins have not blown you away. Fulham wasn't the greatest. I think it was a kind of one shot on target, one goal win there. So we'd not absolutely blitzed them, but away fixtures are always tough in the Premier League to go and get 3 points, and we'll take that every day of the week. Rangers, I thought we'd blew it when they kind of equalised after sort of 88 minutes. I thought we'd kind of thrown our chance away, and the difference in that win that we found, I think it took us from something like 14th in the kind of the Europa League table. It propelled us right up, didn't it? So I think that was a really important victory, and Bruno kind of finding that winner late on was outstanding. So that's given us a little bit of momentum going forward that we kind of took into last night again. And I think what we've got to understand here is, I think when Ruben Amorim took over, I think United they were suffering a little bit. They were struggling a little bit in the Europa League, and he's kind of took us from a lowly position, right up into the sort of, did we finish third in it, I think? And we've kind of sort of had a look at the draws this morning. We can sort of play one of 4 teams. And I think going forward, that's an opportunity for a trophy, I think, that's pretty winnable for Man United if we can keep our confidence up now and keep our momentum going a little bit. But as you say, that is the key. We've got to go into league stuff now. We've got to deal with the bread and butter. Make sure we start picking up a few league wins now to try and get us up the table a little bit. So we're seeing signs of promise. We're seeing signs of, more encouragement, but I think we have still got a long way to go yet. I think there's still a few players in United's squad that will be moved on, and they're not going to have long-term futures with us.
And just to add to the news that we brought to all the listeners in January regarding Mainoo's contractual status, we're told again this morning that talks have progressed well between all parties, and there is complete confidence that barring travesty in a long-term deal being solidified for Mainoo. So hopefully he's not one of these players that we're looking at leaving. And that does tie me into something that I do want to speak about with you, because you mentioned him in the opening conversation that we had, is Alejandro Garnacho. He really changed the game in the second half because we had so much possession and so much control of the football, but like so much that we've seen this year, it lacked real penetration and sort of confidence in the final third with being clinical in opportunities. And his pace and his desire to just run at the defence and attack really accelerated the forward thinking of the entire team in the final third during that second half. I know the financial situation is a direct result of the mismanagement that we have encountered over nearly 2 decades of Glazer mismanagement, with the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules looming large. You've got everything from points deductions to fines there. The club really is standing with a noose around its neck, and every single cost-cutting measure is being applied to try to alleviate the necessity to offload young talent and players in the squad that Amorim can work with. Not disregarding the opponents we faced, Garnacho should be going out and really cocking his chest out against FCSB and really putting in a good performance because he's an international player for Argentina. But how important is it for the club to maintain Garnacho, or should they be looking at offloading him to be able to bolster additional positions in the squad? Where do you stand on it?
For me, Shaun, keep hold of him. I think he's a really good talent. I like his rawness. I like his energy. I think he's got plenty more to show for Manchester United. And I was a bit disappointed in a way that we've had to suffer over this last week or two with rumours of clubs being interested in, figures of 70 million getting bandied about. And you're thinking, I don't think this is the player wanting to go. This is kind of Man United trying to get money for somebody to sort of, recoup or level books off of or level funds off, etc., etc. So yeah, I was really, really disappointed in that. I think he's a really decent player and a player. I hope, Shaun, I know time's ticking away and, I don't, I've not got any insight into the runnings of Man United and what they're looking to do. But, if I was in that boardroom, there's no way I'd be saying, let's move him on. I think he can sort of establish himself as a really top quality player for Man United and cement his place in that side. And, and almost you want to be building the team around players like that. He's young, he's raw. He can create, he can score goals, and plenty of potential to grow into. So yeah, I hope we can keep hold of him, Shaun. But like football's ridiculous. It's daft. It's crazy. We don't know what's coming tomorrow with it. But yeah, I'd personally like to see him stay.
I would share that. I'd also share the sentiment that football is daft, especially when you look at Aston Villa and you see the young lad John Duran, and he's looking at going for 75, 80 million in January. It's just madness. This is a player who hasn't even entered the peak of his powers, and it just goes to show the money that he can get at the other side. Another player who generated further conversation and seems to do so on a weekly basis is Rasmus Hojlund. The Dane has struggled to find opportunities, impose himself on fixtures, although I did think that he put in a decent shift last night and was left without a telling pass on several occasions. And that said, he is clearly low on confidence. You can see it. And the growing dissatisfaction through online channels is leading towards almost a unified voice about a lack of his suitability for this team. As a man who has been there and done it as a young lad, what is your take on the 21-year-old at this moment in time? Does he have what it takes to go to the next level and really overcome the shackles that were put on top of him for not having an experienced striker join the club at the same time as him? Yeah,
I think he's kind of like woefully short on confidence at the moment, Shaun. For me, he needs some support. He's kind of a bit of a one-man band up there, and we've seen him over this kind of last month or two. He's kind of really, really struggled. He's struggled to hold the ball up. He's struggled to score goals. He's kind of struggling to fit into this system. And personally, when this transfer was made, and we paid quite a big fee for Hojlund, I would have personally preferred to see a more experienced player coming in up there. I know Harry Kane was kind of spoke about at the time. I just think there's too much on this lad's shoulders at the moment. When Fergie was in his pomp and United were kind of dominating the late 90s, and we went on to win the treble in 99. He had like high quality forwards in his kind of squad that he utilised really well. But United have not got that at the moment. Back then Fergie had Dwight York, Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham, and Ollie coming and chipped in with his goals as well. It's a really tough one. I know a lot of the United supporters have kind of, been questioning him, and United fans, they're as supportive as anybody, but they demand and they expect the best at Man United. That's what we should be looking at. He's only young. He's got time to grow into his potential, a bit like Garnacho has. But at this moment in time, for me, Shaun, he's not the right person to be leading the line for United. Can we get 25, 30 goals off Hojlund in a sort of a league season for us, to drive us up the table a little bit? I'm not sure that's going to happen at the moment. So I think that's really an area that Amorim really needs to look at and try and bring somebody in and just take the heat off him a little bit. That's my personal opinion. I don't think you can truly look at him and think that he's a bad footballer. He's clearly shown that he has ability to be able to grow to the next level. And we saw the second half of last season that he matched the likes of Erling Haaland before Haaland even started encountering issues. And he broke the record, obviously, in the Premier League for the youngest player to score in 6 consecutive games, as well as his output in the Champions League. I just feel he's been dealt such a bum deal by the club in not having someone experienced coming alongside him, and to have to try to shoulder the burden, as I say so often. You're looking at one of the most struggling forward lines within the most dysfunctional side in the Premier League, and you're saying to a 20-year-old, here you go, it's your job now, fix it.
And even when the club look in the summer at further recruitment, obviously having previously covered Bologna, I can understand why they've moved for Joshua Zirkzee because of the type of player that he is. But he's not going to be that guy that you just referenced a moment ago who's going to hit 20, 25 goals in a league season. Realistically, you've got two guys there that are almost battling it out for a position that really and truly, at this stage of their career and with the technical abilities that they have, neither of them should be in that position. You should be looking with Manchester United of having someone of the ilk of a Harry Kane leading the line, and that you have a 21-year-old Hojlund learning from him on a daily basis, and Hojlund can come off the bench or he can give Kane a night off kind of way. And it's such an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. If you shift to the other end, I think when you're looking at a defensive side of things, we're talking about a team that obviously went through its struggles in trying to adhere to this new three at the back structure. But we've seen certain players climb to the challenge to this and almost overcome it in recent weeks. You see Harry Maguire has reinvented himself at the centre of a back three there. But I want to ask you about Lisandro Martinez, because he delivered yet another solid performance last night. He's almost removed the shackles of this early season trouble that he encountered alongside Erik ten Hag. I think his growth is evident in this new system. And I really like the authority that he's been given to maraud forward and supply additional attacking intent, because he's a player who seems to thrive on that. Injuries contributed an awful lot to his downturn in form, and touch wood, he can remain healthy. What have you made of the upsurge in belief from the Argentine under Ruben Amorim?
Yeah, I think he's kind of really stepped up, hasn't he, over this last sort of month or so. A great goal at Anfield, that was a superb finish. Finding himself, like you say, Shaun, in a position that's probably a little bit foreign to him, and venturing that far forward. But nevertheless, really good goal. He popped up with the winners for us at Craven Cottage to sink Fulham, just marauding forward and just decided to let fly. And, it got a little bit of a spin kind of deflection, didn't it, off the Fulham defender, which took it over the keeper. But nevertheless, he's having the confidence to have a go. And I think last night, another decent commanding performance from him. And, we know his desires there. We know the attitude's right. He's a superb tackler. And I think just getting somebody around him who can kind of win the first headers, Martinez can mop up around that, I think is really important. So I think with this kind of the confidence coming back a little bit in the squad and the group itself, I think he's starting to thrive a little bit, and he's having the courage to step up a little bit and lead some of the other players forward. He's really experienced. He's a World Cup winner, and let's hope that continues, and hopefully that he can cement his kind of like position as a real fan's favourite, which is what he is at the moment.
He got that cult hero status very, very early on. It was very disappointing from a supporter's perspective to see him kind of dwindle off as a result of injuries and everything else in the background. So I truly, truly hope that he can build on this, because I think it's impossible not to love him. Before we dabble into the small matter of Premier League football at the weekend, I think it would be rather rude of me not to indulge in the life and times of Fergie's first fledgling. So from arriving at Manchester at such a young age, earning a professional contract, going to play under Alan Ball afterwards, before leaving football to return to education, your story is phenomenal. And I think it's wonderfully captured in your book, From Red to Red. We could sit here and we could chat for hours about this, but in an attempt to utilize some of our listeners' questions, I feel that there's some have covered ample criteria well. John Hall emailed through shortly after I posted confirmation that we were going to be speaking. He wanted to clarify first and foremost that he loved your book, but he would be eager to hear in your own words about the feelings that you encountered when you first learned you would be moving to Manchester United.
Well, we're going back a long way now here. You're going back into the sort of the kind of mid-80s when I was kind of coming through as a young schoolboy player. The academy system was very different back then, Shaun. You used to kind of train on a Monday night and a Thursday night at the Cliff, which was really exciting. So how it used to work back then, it used to sort of play I think the grassroots sort of football had more prominence, where you used to get like scouts watching games, and if you was good enough to earn a trial, or the scouts kind of spotted something that they thought held a bit of potential, you used to get invited down. And I remember going to the Cliff and training in the indoor gym there on the AstroTurf, and meeting Eric Harrison for the first time, and just I don't know, the feelings of kind of a whole kind of raft of them, really. Pride, a feeling of just complete joy, really, to have like Man United kit on and training with, you know, some of the other talented schoolboys that they kind of had at the time. And how it all kind of worked out for myself was I was playing in a county match for Greater Manchester, and the youth development officer at the time, Joe Brown, he approached me mum and dad after and said, you know, we understand Alan's kind of training on a Monday and Thursday night at the moment, but we want to invite him down for an extended trial over the Christmas period of 1986. So Sir Alex arrived in early November 86, and I think he decided to sort of hold a really big trial. I remember lots of schoolboys being down there, loads of scouts from different areas, you know, the Welsh scouts, the Northeast scouts, the Southern scouts, and just brought a load of schoolboys together just to play in a series of games and training and you know, being observed and watched by like Fergie and Archie Knox and Brian Kidd, Eric. The reserve team manager was Brian Whitehouse. We had other prominent Man United figures down there as well. Sir Matt Busby, Jimmy Murphy was kind of watching and observing this going on. And then at the end of that period, I got offered kind of to sign like schoolboy forms. So that was kind of early January 87. And then I sort of went into sort of Sir Alex's office. I think it was about the 8th of January, something like that, and signed schoolboy forms and a 2-year apprenticeship. So in doing that, sort of becoming like, I think the terminology is probably acquisition is probably the best word to use, because I think, you know, a lot of United fans had recognised Viv Anderson as kind of the first signing, which technically it was, for a fee. I think he came in from Arsenal, didn't he, for about 800,000 or something like that. So what I'd sort of say for myself, so I was probably the first non-fee signing that came in, and then just sort of, just worked my way through the rest of my schoolboy years, joined United as an apprentice. We did all right in the FA Youth Cups. We got to a quarter-final and a semi-final, managed to win the B-team league, the couple of A-team leagues. We won a really big tournament in Italy called the Grossi Marera in 1989, where we were playing against teams like AC Milan, Napoli, Auxerre from France. You know, really good achievement. And then at the end of my first year pro, probably the worst thing you can do is sign 1 year, because the pressure's right on you. I kind of like my United journey came to an abrupt end because, you know, Fergie called me in and just said, we're not going to offer you anything else now. I think we've come to the end of your journey here. So all the highs and the joy and the excitement that I had with kind of 14, 15 turned into the other side of life, really. Sadness, disappointment. I was absolutely devastated, because it's like, you know, a club that my mum and dad supported as young people. I followed United through as a young lad as well. So it's almost like going to the electric chair, Shaun, when Sir Alex said, you know, we're going to have to move you on. And, you know, I was absolutely devastated. So yeah, I look back at it in kind of with mixed feelings, to be honest, because there's lots of things that you can take from it in a positive way. You know, very fortunate enough to play and train with some unbelievable players, but, you know, just didn't quite get the luck and the breaks at the right time that I needed. And, you know, and it was ultra competitive as well. Massive squad of first team players. And what you got to remember back then was there was only 2 subs on the bench. So it's like you're fighting amongst in the region, maybe 30, 40 professionals to get into the starting 11 and 2 on the bench. And I just couldn't quite get there, unfortunately. But, you know, the experiences and the sort of thrills that I kind of had in certain aspects, and played with some superb footballers, you know, that I'll kind of take that, and you know, I can look back and have a lot of joy, but a lot of disappointment as well. I think in my book that I wrote, I used the kind of Tale of Two Cities quote and said the best of times, the worst of times. I think that was probably the best way to sum up that experience, Shaun.
Yeah, but at least you are one of few people who actually got to enjoy that experience, and that's something that will always stand to you. You've summarised a very, very long period of time very briefly there, and you've done it very well too. But anyone who hasn't read the book, I'd obviously recommend you to do so. Another person who did, and it's a great question that came through, looking at your career from a different perspective at the latter part of it. It came through an email from Peter Clark. Now, he's advised that he's currently recuperating from back surgery and that he's an avid Red for over 40 years. He's asked how you dealt with the physical pain on top of the emotional trauma that came hand in hand with having to walk away from the game you dedicated your youth to as a result of injury.
Yeah, that was like really weird because I'd had the real disappointment of the United experience, and I kind of sort of like, when I picked my boots up and walked out the cliff for the last time, that was it. There was no player care, there was no real support. And I had to kind of drive my own kind of trials in a way. I had to speak to sort of a few different managers, and I remember leaving a few messages for managers from clubs in the local area. I went to Bolton Wanderers for a bit that didn't quite work out. We couldn't come to terms on that. I ended up going into the non-league for a little spell, just to keep myself fit really. And then the Exeter kind of opportunity came my way, and I remember Alan Ball phoning up. I think it was me. My mum answered and said, like, he'd like you to go down to Exeter. He said he remembers you from playing in United's reserves, and he said, I was lucky enough to go for. I won a Football League representative cap when I was 17. We toured Russia, or we went to Russia to play against the Russian Football League. And Alan Ball and an old manager called Laurie McMenemy, they were the kind of the people who were leading the party. And he said, like, well, we'd like to sort of, have a look at you and come down to Exeter. And I remember at the time, Shaun, thinking, I didn't know where Exeter was. I couldn't point to that on a map, and, ended up being quite a long drive, to be fair, about 4.5 hours. I had a little Ford Fiesta at the time, and it was my dad wrote me a little map to get down there, M6, M5, and off I went. And my life was kind of changed. I didn't really return after that. My life kind of changed, and I ended up spending the best part of 5 or 6 years down in the southwest. And yeah, it's just to answer Pete's question there, coming to kind of the experience of my back injury. I just ended up getting like pins and needles in my hands and my legs and my feet, and stupidly I just kept playing with it for a period of time. I was a bit daft. I think I was young and daft at the time, just to get like deep heat and rub it on my back, and they got, I'll be all right, it'll calm down in a week or two. And I just got to a stage where I thought, well, I'm going to have a chat with the physio here because something's not right. Sent me for an MRI scan to Bristol French Hospital, and my back was in a real mess, and I had to have 2 operations. The first operation had screws and plates inserted into my spine. It wasn't the nicest experience. I remember the surgeon saying to me, Mum and Dad, like, said, if Alan had a really bad tackle whilst he'd been playing with that, could have been in a real serious condition. So you think to yourself, is football worth that? Well, it's not, is it? It's totally not. So in relation to that was kind of my hand forced. Then the surgeon kind of recommended that, in relation to a sort of trying to pursue a football career professionally, he kind of said, well, I don't think day-to-day training and playing is the right choice here. But because I love football so much, I did try to keep on with it. I thought, well, if I can't play full-time, I'd like to just see if I could maybe keep playing, on a part-time basis. So I signed up with a couple of sort of local Southwest non-league sides. But I think by then, Shaun, I think the love had kind of drained out of me. And it was not from a physical perspective. I think it was more mental. I just petrified of somebody kneeing me in the back at a corner, or having to go down and somebody kind of like catching me late or twisting. And I was so fearful of that. And I had this kind of mental imagery of like, the screws in place popping out or something. And, so I think I was mentally kind of shot by then. So it led to a real period of difficult times. I was, suffering quite a lot with my mental health. And I was suffering quite a lot, I think, with depression at the time because I was drinking a lot and turning to sort of bad habits where, you know, I was kind of in a bit of a mess, to be fair, because I had no direction really. My life was kind of at a real transitional point, you know, and no real training at that time. Man United put you through a BTEC in sport, but you know, where would that get you? Not a lot, not far really. I think jobs in football were difficult because I was only 23 and a half and I didn't really have any credibility with the industry. There was no real academy coaching back then where someone would say, "Oh, why don't you pick the under-12s up or the under-14s, or you know, keep you in the game?" And it was just limited opportunities in football. So after a few years of being sort of lost in the wilderness, I decided to return to my education and pick that up again. And you know, since then I've picked up a degree in sports science. I did something called a PGC, a teacher training qualification. I picked up a master's degree in philosophy, and then I finished a PhD recently as well. So I kind of I found meaning and purpose within that area, and I've been teaching now for 21 years. I work with lots of young people on degree level courses. I work for a company called UCFB. We've got a big campus in Manchester, and you think to yourself, well, if football had worked out, I would have never had those experiences that I've had. And I absolutely love working with some of the young people and seeing them achieve and strive and get better at what they do. And you know, it's nice to play a small part in their journey as well. So that's kind of how kind of football transitioned itself into kind of another pathway in another direction.
That's absolutely fantastic, Alan. There was an absolute host of questions that came through. Obviously, I don't have time to ask every single one of them. We'd be here forever. Particularly, I reckon we'd need about a week to decipher Justin McCarthy's query about you naming your all-time United 11. But yeah. Rob on Twitter has asked if you would like to be the next manager of Exeter.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, wouldn't it? Again, it's just I don't know. There's been a few teachers, Shaun, over the years, hasn't there? I think Gerard Houllier was one. I think he had like links to education as a lecturer and found his way into professional football. And I'm pretty sure if we did our homework and our research, I think Jose Mourinho was a PE teacher when he first started, and you know, he found a great role model in Bobby Robson at Barcelona that shaped his coaching career, and he kind of transitioned. But you know, it's nice to see some academic kind of types of managers as well in the modern day, because I think football now is so scientific. And you know, going back to those experiences, Shaun, that I had, we used to have sausage and chips on a Friday dinner, you know, playing for the A team on Saturday morning, and after the sausage and chips, chances are you'd have like chocolate sponge and custard, and you know, and you're thinking, crikey, I've got to run around on a Saturday morning with all that. I mean, but people didn't know any better back then. But you look at the conditioning stuff now, and you look at the performance analysis, and everything's scrutinised. The nutritional knowledge has gone through the roof, and you know, these are highly paid, finely tuned athletes, and you know, especially at the top level. So I think the science has absolutely skyrocketed. So, but yeah, in relation to management, it's so some people ask me that, you know, why don't you go back into coaching, or you know, try and work with people in that? You can't do all things, Shaun, unfortunately. I think, you know, I do a bit of radio work for Radio Devon. You know, I cover some of the Exeter games when they come up into the north, which is brilliant. I really enjoy that. I have done a couple of radio commentaries for BBC Radio Manchester as well a year or two ago, which I really enjoyed. I commentated when Man United played Tranmere in the FA Cup. I was summarising that game, and also when they played Watford as well. I think that was an FA Cup tie on Old Trafford. That was kind of in the COVID season. So I've done a couple in there as well, which has been really nice. And it's just trying to find little things that keep you ticking over, keep you happy. And but you know, never say never. But I can't see the managerial job at Exeter being on the radar anytime soon, Shaun, to be honest.
Never say never, though. I'm pretty sure from when you said it, I'm trying to think back to that Tranmere game. I'm pretty sure that was the game that Harry Maguire scored a 30-yard thunderbolt.
That's the one.
That's the one, isn't it?
That's
Yeah,
the one.
yeah.
I think it was one of them ties, Sean. We think this is a tough FA Cup tie for United, but we end up smashing them. I think it was like 6-1 or something, or 6-0 or something like that. Really, really good performance. So.
And it came at a time when they needed a win as well, if I remember correctly. Last thing, Crystal Palace make the trip to Old Trafford, 2:00 kickoff on Sunday. They have enjoyed 4 wins and a draw in 2025, heading into last week's home defeat against Brentford. But this is going to be a difficult fixture, Alan, against a side who have an abundance of attacking talent at their disposal. Amram rested several bodies like Manuel Ugarte against FCSB. But how do you see United tackling the Londoners at the weekend?
Well, it's just got to try, and we've got to find this league form, Sean, haven't we, and try and get us up this Premier League a little bit. We're kind of stalling. We're not really going anywhere fast, are we? I mean, in a sort of a relatively lowly position, and absolutely crazily enough, a few weeks ago, some of the United fans, the real sort of downhearted fans, were actually saying, we're only sort of 10 points off the bottom 3 and things like that, and it was a real concern. I think most teams in the Premier League now will give you a game. I point to Bournemouth at the moment. I think they're absolutely unbelievable. They've kind of smashed us up, beat us up a little bit. They've beat Notts Forest up. They've beat Newcastle up in the last sort of month or two, and they're doing something right at that club. So I think Palace always will give you a test. Personally, Sean, I think they're a better team at their own ground, at kind of at Selhurst Park. I think they're better at home, but you never know. We've got to be on our guard, haven't we? And it'd be nice to try and pick up a run of league games now and just get us up that table a little bit and see how high we can finish. But yeah, you've got to be at it. There's no point picking up good results and beating teams, and then you come to sort of silly teams where you think, well, that's an easy 3 points, and the attitude's all wrong, and they come and pick our pockets. So I'll be expecting us to win, but we've got to carry on this momentum now from the kind of the last 3 games that we've kind of got over the line in, and see if we can get 3 points.
Can I press you for a scoreline? What are you thinking is going to end up?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for us. I'm gonna say we're gonna win that 2-0. We're gonna sort Palace 2-0. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, I'm sure the vast majority of Reds would take your hand off for a 2-0 victory on Sunday. 3 more points in the league, start generating further momentum, building upon the impressive European campaign we have, and start just alleviating some of this weekly torment that's happening on a domestic basis. Alan, this was an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, my man. What have you got coming up over the coming weeks and months? Anything interesting happening in your world?
Yeah, so I've got a few bits and pieces on the radio coming up. So Exeter venture up into the north over this next sort of month or two. We've got Rotherham, Barnsley, Lincoln, Mansfield. So I'll be picking up the radio stuff on that. So that's really good. I'm just busy at work at the moment. I do a little bit of writing. My kind of interest is in sports psychology. So I'm trying to put some sort of research papers together at the moment with a couple of collaborations that I've got running. Spending time with the family and things like that's really important. Just getting that balance right. So what I'd like to sort of finish on, Sean, like that question from the sort of the is it Peter on social media asking about your best 11? Can we whip through that very, very quickly? Because I've had a little think about that.
By all means. This
is my personal team that I'd pick, and we'll just whip through. So I'd go with Van der Sar in goal.
Okay.
I'd go with a back 3 of, I'm going to put Martin Buchan in. I'm going to put Paul McGrath in the centre, and I'm going to put Dennis Irwin. So that'd be me defenders. And I'm going to go for 4 across the midfield. I'd go with Bestie on the left. I'd go with Brian Robson and Duncan Edwards in the centre of midfield. And I'd go with Cristiano Ronaldo on the right-hand side. Sitting in front of that 4, I'd have Sir Bobby Charlton there. And then in front of Bobby, I'd have 2 forwards. I'd have Eric Cantona and Dennis Law. So that would be my Man United 11.
Well, that would be a hell of a team. How long did it take you to come up with that?
Well, I was having a good think about it. Everybody's got different opinions. One of my old friends, my good friends, wrote a book about this, Sean, called Roy Cavanagh. What would be your best United 11? And I think the older fans that stretch back into the kind of the 50s and 60s who've seen the Busby Babes play, they tend to have affinity for those crops of players, and lads and girls who've come through the 70s supporting United, where you're Tommy Docherty's team and we beat Liverpool at Wembley in 77, and then the 80s side under Atkinson and Dave Sexton, and then as we kind of transitioned and Fergie arrived into the 90s, the 2000s. So, you know what, Shaun, we could pick about 6-7 teams, and they could all be quality, but that back three, I think Martin Buchan was a real Rolls Royce of a footballer and somebody who doesn't get enough credibility. Paul McGrath was unbelievable centre-half. I know he suffered with his knees at the end of his career, and he had his own personal battles going on as well, but he was incredible on his day. He was another Rolls Royce of a defender. And then Dennis Irwin. I think Dennis is one of those players that give you, sort of Fergie said, 8 out of 10 every week. And I think he was a fantastic footballer too. So, but you know what, Shaun? I don't think those three lads would have much to do, because once you get the ball into that midfield and you get it out to Bestie or Cristiano on the left and right hand side, it'd just be non-stop attack, So I think that thinking about that 11, that'd kind of it's got a real good balance in all areas, and and I just can't leave Best, Law and Charlton out of any starting 11. I know we've got Scholesy, Roy Keane, Rooney, Norman Whiteside. There's loads of unbelievable talent that you could pick sides in, but that would be my Man United 11 that I'd go to war with.
I don't think too many people would be disagreeing with that selection, and what an absolutely fantastic way to finish up proceedings today. Alan, a pleasure as always. And everybody listening, you can get in touch with us at theatre_of_raid on every social platform. And of course, you can keep up to date with our daily content on the website. If you would kindly subscribe wherever you are listening, and leave us a quick 5-star review, particularly on Spotify, because it only takes seconds. It'll go a long way towards helping us to continue to grow and build our footprint across the social channels. As always, thank you for your time. I look forward to chatting with you all next week. Georgie, call you the